Welcome back to Family Recaps. The movie for today is Spit on Your Grave. Katie Carter takes a taxi to see her modeling agent, Sharon. Sharon tells her that if she wants to be a model, she needs to improve her photographs. Katie walks out of the restaurant after being let down. On her way out, she sees an ad for free photographs of women and grabs the information she needs. Katie enters her apartment and takes a seat. She calls the number she had previously copied down. On the other end of the line, a man arranges for Katie to have a session. Then he asks her to take a picture of her face. When he receives her photo, he sends her a location to visit. A model on stage is being photographed by Nicola, Ivan, and Georgie. Ivan approaches and tells her to put on the clothes he picked out for her. As soon as Katie has the clothes, she changes in the restroom. She asks Georgie for help with a zipper. After the photo shoot, the photographer, Ivan, implores Katie to take her clothes off so they can capture more body on camera. Katie declines and walks away. When Katie gets back home, she's depressed about her present predicament. After her morning jog, Katie has a surprise visitor the following day. After seeing the pictures they took of her, Katie is terrified. She maintains her composure and thanks Georgie as she carefully gathers the photographs. A close-up of Georgie's new muse, Katie, appears on his computer screen. A break-in is then attempted at her residence. Katie had accidentally left a section of her door open as she was putting out the trash. Finally, she heads back to her flat and goes to sleep. In the middle of the night, Katie wakes up to find Georgie taking pictures of her while she sleeps. She screams for aid and rushes outdoors in a panic. After chasing her, Georgie forces her back into the flat. He ties her up and comes close to getting his way. After hearing her screaming from the other room, Jason taps on her door. Georgie kills Jason the moment he walks into the flat. Jason spends his last moments watching his love interest struggle on the floor while lying in a puddle of his own blood. Georgie comes to terms with his actions. He calls his brother in a state of fear and tells him all that has happened. Soon after, Ivan and Nicola show up at the flat. While helping him clean up, Ivan reprimands his dim-witted younger brother. The blood is removed from the floorboards using a chemical agent, and Katie's prints are left on the knife. Ivan reaches into his pocket and pushes something into Katie's mouth. After ingesting it, Katie falls unconscious. It's clear from this scene that Katie is being transferred somewhere. Nicola is already on top of her when she wakes up. Despite her best efforts, she is unable to free herself from her clamp on the pole. Entering, Georgie stops his brother from assaulting Katie. As soon as Katie asks for water, Nicola urinates on her. Georgie lashes out at his brother, but Ivan enters the scene and quickly disperses the crowd. Katie lets out a scream. While flinging water at their captive, Ivan forces her to rise. He then asked her to wash for their dad, Valko. The boys pushed something into Katie's mouth when she became upset. Georgie is then left to clean up after them. He cleans Katie up and goes to get some clothes for her before leaving the room. Katie throws up the pills and passes out now that the guys have left. Georgie comes back with her clothes and wakes up the sleeping Katie. He helps her out of her shackles and into her clothes. A bucket is all that is needed to knock Georgie senseless, and she leaves through the window. They all stare at her on the main road as she dashes into town. She is eventually accompanied to the station by the police. A police officer in the automobile tells her that she is currently in Bulgaria. Katie sobs, saying she doesn't know how she got to Bulgaria. In the meantime, Ivan realizes what is going on. As soon as they arrive back at the station, Katie asks to be escorted to the United States Embassy. When Anna Peter shows up, she begs for some private time with Katie. Katie learns about Anna's sanctuary for battered women from Anna. Katie is adamant that she must visit the embassy. Anna, on the other hand, is adamant that Katie change her clothes and wash up immediately. Katie boards Anna's car on the way to her house. As Katie approaches Anna's home, she decides to follow her. Katie follows Anna downstairs, where she finds Ivan and the other boys waiting for her. Anna was revealed to be the mother of Ivan and Georgie. Katie screams in frustration as she is left in utter despair. Their father Valko appears with the taser soon afterward. In order to block out Katie's cries as Valko is having his way with her in the cellar, Anna turns on some opera music above. Katie screams as Valko repeatedly zaps her with a taser. Ivan comes after Valko was finished with Katie, teases her, and gets smacked by her. Ivan becomes enraged and delivers a heavy blow to her. Digging up some soil, the three men bury Katie. Katie's injuries are so severe that she is limited to watching the boys. Katie is boxed up once the hole is dug. After saying goodbye, they throw her jewelry into the box with her. It's late, and the boys have completed their task of filling in the hole and putting a mattress over it. Katie cries out to God from the shadows of the hole. A mistake made by the boys allowed Katie to tumble into the sewers while still conscious. Georgie is distraught and reaches out to his mother for help. While all is going on, Ivan and Nicola are strategizing their next move. Katie is awakened by the taste of sewer water. She continues her search in the rat-filled sewers until she comes across a stack of clothes. She scrounges around for anything she can find, like a lighter. After that, Katie goes about putting together a place where she can sleep. A rumbling sound alerts her to the fact that there is a bird stuck in the sewers. When Katie manages to capture the bird and prepare it for supper, she is delighted. She explores after hearing some churning noises in the distance. She enters the church after realizing it is where the noise is coming from. The pastor of the church detects something odd and goes to investigate a spilled object on the ground. Katie heads back to the sewers. When she gets back to the church, the pastor is there to greet her, but Katie doesn't seem bothered by his attempts at welcoming her to the church. She takes his gift of clothing and food before retreating to her sewer home. In between bites of bread, Katie takes a closer look at her new place and does some exploring of her own. She finds a different exit that leads to a busier area of the city. When she enters the church again, she is noticed gazing at the cross. She is approached by the kind father, who offers to help, but she turns him down and leaves the building. As she analyzes her next move, Katie makes her way back to the pit into which she fell. A little later in the day, she breaks into Georgie's house and makes off with a few bucks. By the time it gets dark, she pursues Nicola and goes to his preferred club. Georgie is approached the following day in a cafe and invited to an old building. The moment Georgie arrives, an outraged Katie throws him to the ground. The pastor admits to being concerned about what an enraged woman like Katie may do to her offenders in his confession to the detective. Georgie wakes up shackled to a wall in an old building. As she approaches him, Katie slices his face and stomach. A gooey substance was pumped into Georgie's wound, leading an infection to grow and eventually kill him. Nicola, on the other hand, continues to have a good time at his club. A drink Katie gave him makes him sick to his stomach. He rushes to the bathroom in an attempt to vomit, but he meets Katie instead. The drug then begins to work. During Katie's pressure to have him swallow the toilet water, he falls and accomplishes nothing. After swallowing the disgusting toilet water, Nicola passes away. Georgie screams as Katie reappears to abuse him more. She uses a stick to inflict further pain on him. Katie tries to stuff some of his clothes into his mouth before she leaves for church. She follows Valko around, and when he sees her, he hurries Anna home to protect her. He is knocked unconscious after being drawn into the sewers by Katie. Awakening with a startling realization, Valko finds himself strapped into a mattress. Katie uses the same taser that Valko used on her to administer an electric shock to him. This gives Valko a chance to experience the consequences of his actions. When Anna gets home, her room has been trashed. She moves to look towards the opera music that is playing in the distance. It was supposed to be Katie's hole, but Anna is shoved into it instead by Katie. When Anna awakens, she screams aloud in horror at the sight of Georgie already deteriorating from the infections. Ivan, meanwhile, has returned home and has seen everything that has happened. He goes down into the cellar to look into things. The father shows the investigator the sewer Katie crawled out of. When Ivan tried to approach Georgie, Katie knocked him out cold. In his waking moments, he realizes that Katie is about to crush his nuts and shouts. Katie slowly crushes his balls as she removes his navel from him. Entering the room, the investigator from before holds Katie at gunpoint. Ivan uses the occasion to his advantage and chokes Katie. The detective is compelled to take Ivan's life. Katie then makes her way to the embassy of the United States of America and walks in while smiling. That's all for today's recap. Give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Click the bell button if you want to be notified every time we post a new video. And as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next one.